We're gonna start recording a podcast right now. We're gonna start like something a little bit like this. Welcome to Coprolalia. Silly little podcast. This is the only podcast that says I'm Ray.
I'm Giles. Oh, yep.
And I don't know, man. I ain't got much prepared today because I'm just feeling kind of deflated and flat. But we're gonna talk about all kinds of random shit. We're gonna start some music right now with this button. There's a little tune for you. Breaking news. I wonder if I have a thing for that.
No. Make a loud noise and make it repeat, but just like and then repeat it.
Breaking news.
Whoa! Did you just seamlessly repeat that noise?
Yeah, boy.
Oh, brilliant.
It's called showmanship. I'm going to take a sip of this coffee really loudly. Hang on.
Nice. I didn't know what that was called until now, so... Thank you.
XXS, in excess, Tentacion. If he died of a drug overdose, that would have been a good joke. But he didn't. He got shot. I guess he took a bullet in excess. God damn it! off to a flying start today.
He bled in excess.
Yeah. Oh my god. For all you Tentacion fans, comment below why that was insensitive.
I have a feeling that if you're a fan of Tentacion, then being offended by the jokes we're making is like an oxymoron. Because if you think that, because let's just call him X from now on. I think that was his colloquial name. If you think he's a funny guy,
is he now past tense Tentacion? Hang on.
No,
that doesn't work. But there was something in there.
His sense of humor was to... I read one tweet that he made, which was... something like... No, I don't even want to misquote it because it's like horrendous. But it was something along the lines of like raping an underage girl. That was like his style of humor. So if you're offended by us saying that he bled in excess, you need to review your own sense of humor.
He was he was pretty much regarded as a bad dude. He was I saw a thing.
But he was also regarded as like a creative type.
Well, I guess he was probably one of the most popular of his particular movement, I guess you would call it, the SoundCloud
shovelware rap.
Is that a term that's been used?
No, yeah.
I like that.
Chaff rap.
Chaff rap.
Sound chaff rap. Chaff cloud. Shovel cloud. I don't know.
Shovelcore.
Yeah.
Shovelcore's pretty good. Anyway. So he was huge. He was a huge in big name. It was very controversial though. I think he went to jail. I think he got potentially convicted for beating. I know there was allegations. I'm not sure if he actually got convicted.
I think the term beating isn't entirely right. Apparently, he punched his pregnant girlfriend because it wasn't him who got her pregnant or something like that.
Right.
Like he found out she was cheating on him because she was pregnant, and he like just punched her.
Right.
Yeah. So just completely justified when you look at it like that.
I can't believe that's still. I mean, obviously, I can believe it, but I can't believe that that's still such a huge deal for people. Like, cheating should kind of be off the table now in terms of like
Depends on the nature of the relationship, right? So people do this. They do promise one another, like to each other. They promise themselves to each other.
Yeah.
And then when you break that, I can understand why it's like it's just mistrust.
Yeah, sure. And I guess to be in a relationship like that, it's like the one thing you can trust in your life. That's kind of the point.
Yeah, well, it's probably one of the biggest things you can promise to somebody is like the rest of your time.
Yeah. It's
so I can see why some people feel like that investment is shit on a bit if there's like stuff going on behind the scenes. However, I have not entered into anything that restricted like a woman from getting out there and doing whatever she wanted to do. So I'm not. Yeah, I don't share that kind of frustration that other men do.
I don't find it even that healthy I don't think it's a particularly healthy way of looking at it. I get it. Because I get feelings of jealousy for sure. But I don't want to give those too much power. I feel like if I acknowledge them, that's fine. But if then I use those as fuel of my own frustration or my own anger, as if I'm actually entitled to something, then that can very quickly spiral out of control and become unhealthy and destructive.
Yeah.
So everyone feels jealousy. I don't want to. I'm not sure if I'm in a polyamorous. Fuck, I can't even say the word.
Polyamorous.
Something. If I'm not sure if I'm definitely not. Fuck, what's the word? I'm so sleepy today, so this is gonna be a goddamn nightmare. Monogamous. I'm not monogamous in my relationship. Not that it hasn't come up that much anyway, because I don't get out of the house enough, and neither does my partner. But
when that opportunity arises, it doesn't feel like you're betraying the other.
No, because it shouldn't. I don't want it to be based on that. I don't want it to be based on exclusivity. Like that doesn't mean as much as like being there in the there and now, if that makes sense. You know, like it's the discussions and the hanging out all the time, stuff like that. That's really important. If you were in a relationship with someone and then they suddenly picked up and left without a word, that would cut me down to my core, rather than them just having a one night stand or a fling or something like that. You know, like that's not, or even just falling in love with someone else. That's not as big of a deal, as long as they're honest about what they're doing, what they're feeling. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I pretty much quickly established in my first relationship in high school that we're actually like super young people, and if we think that our first time is also going to be the only person we ever are with, then we're like barring ourselves off from experiencing life.
Yeah. And in relationships, it's so easy to. It depends on what you want to do. Like if you're in it to build a family and a home and like this future, which I don't really subscribe to the idea of, because I don't think human nature.
You're not a nuclear family type.
Nah. I don't think the universe will smile very fondly upon that, because life is chaos and people are chaos. Like I don't think things have changed too dramatically for that to feel the way you expect it to for its entire existence. If that makes sense.
I reckon round about the 10th year of coming home to the dinner on the table and the kids sitting around, you'll just be like, what the fuck is going on? This isn't my beautiful wife. This isn't my beautiful house.
This isn't my dog. Not that, I don't think that, like, you could, because there's experiences you can only experience by staying with people for a long period of time. Like there's certain levels of bonds and a certain level of loyalty and relationships that drastically improve to a degree, or just change over time, and you can't just replicate that really quickly. However, one thing that really freaks me out occasionally is when I'm in an echo chamber, it's so easy. And in relationships, that's the most dangerous thing, I think, is when you're with someone, or even just in a friend group, and you hear the same thing repeat back to you all the time. You get this feeling of safety, which can be so easily shattered once you are forced into another experience or another world.
Yeah, right.
And being super close to one person pretty much exclusively can be really almost dangerous, I would say, further down the line. I think you do need to go out there and talk to other people.
Like, complacency and apathy sets in.
Mm.
Like, so I became really apathetic in that first relationship, to the point where, like, I wouldn't worry about having to feed myself, because at some point she would just cook something.
Yeah.
And, like, you can't live your life as if someone else is going to be there to do it all for you. And I guess I was still young enough that, like, you know, my mum was doing that already, to the point where I was, like, I had no reason to just grow up. And I just, like, sustained a childish mindset because I was too apathetic towards actually growing. Yeah, and like, the sense of humor between two people can like grow, become more offensive towards one another. I've noticed some people who seem to be in quite comfortable relationships, the jokes become about domestic abuse.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that? I had this friend where they were pretending that, like, he hits her or whatever.
Yeah. And,
like, she would hit him back, and I'm just like, wait a minute. It's slowly turning into actual domestic abuse.
Yeah.
Ironic. Yeah.
I think that I don't know what that is, but I see that in so many couples that do it. Even friends do that. They won't talk about domestic violence, but the jokes will get crueler and crueler to one another over time. Part of it is getting super familiar with each other to the point where you know where the boundaries are, and I think being able to attack almost their actual soul does show a level of loyalty and bond,
right?
Because it's also showing that they know you, which is kind of a beautiful thing in a weird twist of it.
Yeah.
But
and in fact, like, if you've met someone who you're really connecting with, then taboo stuff becomes on the table, I guess.
Yeah.
That can be a really nice thing. And maybe you do pull off a domestic abuse joke, like, you just, like, I don't know.
It's gonna be funny.
Yeah, there's
joke.
Definitely a point where, like, both people, like, can laugh at it and go, yeah, it's funny because it's not the case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like any joke on that scale. We were talking about rape jokes the other day, and how we saw a post basically saying, all right, enough is enough. We just have to take this off the table. You can't make jokes about rape. I think it was to do with the girl that was murdered because she was a comedian.
And not because she was a comedian, but
no.
She was one.
That topic came up because of her.
Oh,
because she was a comedian, and then they were talking about, like, okay, so this happened to this person, and these kind of jokes still happen in this scene. I'm not going to get into that. That's a whole fucking thing. But my point, that came up, and me and my partner were talking about it. Because yes, it's a super touchy subject, and one that it shouldn't be joked about lightly. Things like that, domestic violence and rape and anything like that, shouldn't be just thrown around. If it's used as a tool to try and dissect the problem and try and help people move past the problem and try and fix things, I think it's great.
Yeah.
But if it's used just loosely, depending on who's listening, depending on the situation, you can be validating that same thing that you think you're joking about, which I think can be really damaging.
I want to elaborate a bit on that because I completely agree. So I think a good rule of thumb is, one of the objectives of comedy and humor, and that woman probably also agrees with this, is to take things that are a cause of tension or anxiety or whatever and alleviate that for the person.
Catharsis.
So, yeah. So when you try and make a rape joke, you want it to be a joke that people who have that tension for or anxiety for rape to be in on the joke.
Yeah.
If you're using a context where it's just some old guy who doesn't give a fuck about women finds it hilarious, why are you trying to make that guy laugh?
Yeah.
When the person who it's seriously affected in their life thinks that you've just actually mocked them. So yeah, you I think if you're gonna make a joke about a topic, it should be the kind of joke that is speaking to someone who would actually benefit from that joke, rather than shock because it's an easy laugh.
Yeah. That's put really well. I'm really glad you said that. That wording makes a lot of sense to me, and that's
right.
I've been having this kind of discussion on and off about these kind of jokes. Not that I really make these jokes all that often, because I don't know. I don't really have the use for them most of the time. But I guess picking your target, like if you make it lightly, if you aren't paying attention to what you're saying, you can quite easily make the person the target, like the actual person who would experience
of
like
mockery
that,
and that's awful, and then it's why are you even in comedy if you're just going to make people feel miserable?
We then watched just a couple of nights ago the episode of South Park called The China Problem, and in that episode, that's the episode where the South Park kids go and see Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull. And they all come away. They're talking about something totally different, and then I think it's Kyle just phases out and says like, I can't do this anymore. I have to. And then he walks away and was like, dude, we just have to move on. And they say they saw their friend raped. And you're like, oh shit, we're going down this road with this episode. But then it turns out they saw Indiana Jones get raped by Steven Spielberg and fucking what's his face? George Lucas in the cinema. Anyway, I don't know what about it. It's a fucking fantastic episode. One of my favorites. But I don't know, that one's also kind of towing the line in a way. It's like, I guess that's showing the absolute absurdity of how worked up people get about the film, while also pointing out how bad that film was. Are you there, Giles, or have I lost you? I feel like I've lost you. I definitely can't hear you, that's for sure. We're gonna pause while we sort out a technical issue, I guess, and then we'll jump back into something else. Oh, and we're back.
I believe we were talking about Indiana Jones getting raped.
Yeah, so I kind of explained the episode. I don't know what you heard. I don't know where you cut out.
As soon as you said Kyle said, I can't take this anymore.
Okay, so yeah, I just described the episode about how they go into the joke is that they talk about their friend being raped, and it turns out it was Indiana Jones by Steven Spielberg and George Lucas. But yeah, that was an interesting one because that came up the day after me and Nikki had this, me and my partner, name drop. We had this discussion, and then we watched that episode just randomly. I think I pointed out like that's a good rape joke, right? That's a pretty funny one, and it's arguably funny. But then who is the target in that one? What is the why do they use
I actually think it's people who believe that is relevant terminology to describe what happened in that movie.
Yeah, okay. So you think they're... Yep, go.
I think South Park does this frequently, is actually mock those who have very simple senses of humor.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's an episode where Randy starts campaigning to get the statue taken down because he says it's indigenous.
Yeah.
And he thinks indigenous means insensitive or racist or whatever.
Yeah.
And everyone else is going, is that what you mean? Are you meaning to say it's indigenous? And he's just like, yes, it's indigenous. And And so he's actually being incredibly racist while pretending that he's trying to oppose racism.
Yeah.
It's a similar thing, I think, with that episode, because obviously rape is not what happened in that Indiana Jones movie, and it is a wild
leap.
Yeah, it's a leap, and it's inappropriate terminology.
Yeah.
And that is where the entire humor comes from, in my mind, anyway.
Yeah. No,
It's so completely not the right way to be talking about that movie. Because a bad movie is in no way comparable to rape.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good explanation.
Because there are plenty of people out there who are going to use rape interchangeably with, oh, you beat me in a video game, you raped me.
Yep.
I think it's a critique on that kind of terminology.
Okay, here's actually another. This kind of just brings up another topic in a way, a little segue to people who will use words like that as a shock value technique, right? That's kind of the whole point in gaming, and that's just like
they're trying to have an interesting experience. They're desperate to try and have a meaningful experience while shooting guns at each other.
It's such a primary school way of doing things. It's just by using the worst language you can that you know at the time as a way of,
and also the worst violence they can manage too.
Yeah. However, anyway, so as people grow older, this is a common fucking technique, is you'll use a word like that. You'll use a word like rape and say, I'm not meaning it in a sexual sense. I'm not meaning it like the way you're meaning it. I'm meaning it in terms of like how people would rape the land, or you would rape and pillage, and it's like, hey, you can't look it up in the dictionary and say that's how society means it. Well, that's not how language works, you dumb fucking idiot. And people use that fucking excuse all the time. Is they'll look up a word, the actual meaning technically in the dictionary, and say, no, I mean it how it actually is meant, or I mean it how it used to be meant 100 years ago. It's like, you don't actually get to decide how people respond to your language. Like, you kind of need to adapt. If you're trying to communicate something, you need to adapt with them, just as they need to listen to you. They need to hear you out. If they hear you wrong and you explain yourself, then they need to listen. But you also need to adapt your language to fit how you're speaking to them.
I'm on two sides of the fence with that one too, because like with that Indigenous episode of South Park, like someone can be misusing a word because of the implied or the presupposition.
Yeah.
That it brings. In fact, I think the word racism itself needs to be reassessed, because people do mean it today as hate for another race.
Yeah.
But if you break down the etymology of what racism actually suggests, it just means that you believe in the concept of race.
Yeah, okay.
And people have, with belief in the concept of race, justified hate. So they would be racist people.
Yeah.
However, it's actually hate that they're employing, not just simply believing in race.
Yeah.
There are medical reasons to believe in race. And it technically is racism to believe in medical reasons for race categorization. So if you immediately react to what the word suggests as opposed to what you're actually meaning it, there can be issues in discussion. However, I do agree with you that you can't just say, oh, this is what it used to mean and I've decided it means that again.
Yeah. It pretty much comes down to, like with all of these issues that we're talking about, like with anything, especially online, it's usually taken at face value. You always listen to the first thing said, and you take that as their entire argument or their way of thinking, and then you don't really talk to the person again. Like, you just say, hey, this person said this, let's fucking boycott them, or let's destroy them, let's tear this all down, start from the start. When if everyone was being civilized and sitting at the table, especially if you were face to face, you actually had to make eye contact with the person you were arguing with, you would have to hear them out. You have to sit there and talk about it and figure out what your stance is. Because also, that's another thing, is most people go into a topic, especially fucking all these giant heavy topics that we're trying to tackle. You go in only knowing so much, and you're supposed to learn in the argument as well as state your own opinion. Like you're both trying to come away with some new understanding and new knowledge. You don't both just go in there as an argument, as like there's two precise sides to an idea, and you both are representing each of those sides. Like there's nuance, there's things shift and change, and people will switch sides. People find themselves sitting in the middle or sitting only slightly to one side. It's unproductive to take the first things said and to take their words at face value. Like, you need to hear out what they're actually trying to say, and if you don't understand, or if you think they mean something really freaky and weird, fucking get them to reiterate, get them to say it again, use different language, and say, hey, let's be really clear here. What do you mean by that? And then they'll say like, oh no, I absolutely mean that. Then you can, all right, fucking tear them down. But you can't, you can't assume that their use of the language means exactly how you use the language. Yeah,
I had a discussion today about XXX Tentacion. Someone was saying, because apparently he has meme value. People think he's a bit of a meme.
Yeah.
And this person was saying like, rest in peace, meme god, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not gonna shit on him for dying. Like, death is not what he deserved because of what he did in his life.
Yeah.
But let's not remember someone as some sort of hilarious, well-meaning dude just because he's died.
Yeah.
Like, let's not be happy he's dead, but let's not do like 360, sorry, a 180, and just ignore the negatives about someone because they've passed on.
Yeah.
It's like, I think, like, imagine, you know how much hate Michael Jackson was getting before he died? And as soon as he passed away, it was decided, oh, actually, let's look upon his life as this absolutely glorious, beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Let's forget who he was becoming or what he ended up doing with himself. I think it's like hypocrisy to some level.
And there's not just, I guess there's that assumption that like they're either bad or they're good, especially when it comes to artists. And if they're a bad person, then that makes all their work bad as well. That makes their music, for example, bad music, because they were bad. But people go through shifts and changes, and people say things when they're not their mindset changes, and their work also doesn't always represent exactly what their beliefs are. So I don't know. It's you're allowed to say like, look, obviously, fucking Thriller was an amazing album by Michael Jackson, but he also did some fucking dumb shit. Like both things can be true. Both things can happen. And we need to. It's just like, you just don't bury it. Don't bury the bad shit. That's really dangerous. That's when things really start to become a problem. But I guess like, it's just about not ignoring the bad shit when you're talking about all the good shit. And people, and because I think, and we've had this discussion before, where bad artists make good music. I think it can be a really interesting look into a different perspective that people don't normally get to explore. But we shouldn't pretend, because they make something good, should not remove the fact that they did something bad. It shouldn't be an excuse for their bad actions, and they should absolutely be punished. We actually have laws and things for that, if they get used correctly. But yeah, Tentacion meant some really bad shit to a lot of people. Like, he was a symbol of some really horrible things to a lot of people.
I reckon he's a symbol of some pretty bad trends in culture as well.
Mm.
There's a lot of people out there who are really looking for some sort of absolute shithead hero, someone who glorifies gang violence and violence against women ultimately.
Yeah.
But like the cred that they accrue because of their attitude and their face tattoos and the violent atmosphere that they bring with them. I just, can all of that just die? I don't think it should be in music, to be honest. Feel free to disagree with me on that, because you have far more hip hop knowledge than I do.
I don't know where I sit with it. After I had some discussions about toxic masculinity earlier today.
Right.
I then happened to stumble across this other discussion. A hip hop group in the UK. They're working under the genre UK drill. I haven't heard of it until today, but I looked it up. Looked up the music, and just in terms of the story, they're not allowed to record any more music without permission from the police. Now that's a whole separate discussion. I don't think that's particularly a good way to go, because that's kind of going against freedom of speech. But then at the same time, the other side of that coin is when it is purely promoting violence, promoting gang violence. I mean, but then okay, so I don't know. I'm really battling with this one, because I think there is two sides to it. Where yes, it can influence a lot of young people to continue down that road of violence, and other artists have spoken out about that. Like I think even I remember Kendrick kind of talking about this, especially kind of midway through his career up in this point. I mean, kind of talking about glorifying things like treating women as objects, like things like that, which are really glorified in hip hop, and not just hip hop, but just culture in general. When you constantly glorify it without talking about the other side of things, things can get very lopsided and very misconstrued, especially by the youth.
Oh, yeah.
However, in this particular case, this drill music, like, it's representing a particularly downtrodden class of people within that society, within that culture. So they also need a voice. And if this is what they come up with, then that kind of needs to be heard and needs to be taken seriously, because if they are feeling like they have no voice, then that's really bad.
Yeah.
But that's such a common theme, is glorifying violence and glorifying gang culture and stuff like that, which I would kind of argue is definitely bad. It's the same as glorifying capitalism as a means to
dominate everyone around you.
Yeah, you have to throw people under the bus just to succeed in life. Like, those kind of messages I find really damaging. It's just when it gets to a slippery slope, and then you start banning things like Grand Theft Auto, which are clearly kind of the opposite in a way, because that's not. You could argue it's glorifying, but then they're really trying to make political statements. However, I don't know enough about drill music.
Those statements.
Yeah. It's not a black and white issue, obviously. I'm just kind of spitballing here. I'm not really sure where I stand with this one, except for the idea.
Fair enough.
I don't think glorifying violence without real discussion around it is healthy, especially if it's kind of being marketed to younger people. Don't know what to do about it, though. God damn.
I think that if you're under a certain age, you should just not be allowed to have money.
Yeah.
Like, you can't be swindled into buying loot boxes on Fortnite. You can't be a 13-year-old edgelord who's going to support like gang violent You aren't going to support comedians that are making the absolute terrible jokes that are just as edgy as possible. I have a feeling if you just take away the power of an immature mind's like control over culture, then you're going to just get rid of a whole lot of the shit parts of culture.
Yeah, that's true.
But as long as rich people have kids, they're gonna just spoil the shit out of their undeveloped child who's gonna spend $1,000 on loot boxes supporting a game that is just shit.
Well, that's all it comes down to is just bad
supporting
parenting.
YouTubers, giving money to YouTubers and Twitch streamers that are doing nothing for culture except like just saying swear words in ways that makes them laugh. Yeah, just take all that away. No money for kids. That's my new philosophy.
I wonder if this is perhaps one of the biggest problems. This is kind of why these things are arising so much now, is because the internet has just provided so much easy access to young people. It's so easy. It's so much harder to keep an eye on what your kids are watching now, and to see what they're consuming and to see what they're supporting.
And sometimes it's really bad shit. You know all about ElsaGate, don't you?
No, I have not heard of it.
Oh, it's... So, no one actually knows who's making these videos.
Yeah.
But there's like this constant stream of in air brackets kid-friendly content, which involves either Spider-Man or Elsa from Frozen.
Yeah.
Or other, kid-grabbing content.
Yep.
And then making this really obscene, shocking videos.
Yeah, I did see this actually. It showed up on YouTube Kids, didn't it?
Yeah.
I think that was the big problem.
It's not even being removed.
Yeah.
Like either advertising companies have such a hand in it that YouTube's hands are tied, or I guess because these videos get millions of hits because kids are just scrolling through for what's actually showing up on YouTube, which is not a lot. When the parental controls are actually working. But yeah, these really brightly colored animations of Spider-Man and Elsa like vomiting and playing with shit are actually showing up and getting millions of hits, and kids are like confused about it because it's, I don't know, it's like taboo shit for them maybe.
Yeah.
And I've seen quite a few people suggest that it's sort of like grooming. It's like getting these kids desensitized in order for them to be more susceptible to just, I guess, other people giving them narratives. It's like brainwashing, sort of.
That's
Did I already say it's like grooming?
Yeah. This has been a huge issue on YouTube for a while now, and they launched the YouTube Kids app, which is obviously a kid-orientated YouTube, which copped a huge amount of backlash when it launched because all this kind of shit was just getting put forth towards kids,
floating to the top.
Floating to the top because it's outrageous, things like that. That's just how the internet works. It's like why fake news works on Facebook, because the most outrageous shit gets the most clicks because of shock value, and then that starts trending.
And kids want to rebel. Kids want to rebel by going, "Oh, I'm gonna go check out the things that mum doesn't want me to see."
Yeah. Anyway, I think this is a relatively not as simple. It's obviously a huge undertaking, but just more money has to be poured into this by companies, like giant companies, because this is YouTube. There's so much money being pouring into YouTube. YouTube needs to spend a lot more money. And I don't know any figures. I don't know how it's working, but clearly they're turning a profit. It's obviously working because there's huge names on YouTube. There's huge advertising companies being taking part in YouTube. Like, there's clearly cash flow moving around. Otherwise, it wouldn't exist to the degree it does. There has to be people. I guess this is kind of my issue with capitalism. And this is like super vague, and I could potentially just cop shit from people who know how it all works more so. But fuck yeah.
Please do. Please post comments.
Correct me on all this shit.
Make us cop shit.
But when companies talk about like, we just don't have the resources, we just don't have the money, my first instinct is always like, but how much capital are you actually making? How much profit is being made every year? Could we not just lower that even just a little bit and take that money and pay more people, actual human beings, to scroll through all this content, to go through it and check it? Because it has to have people on the other end. Like, yes, okay, you've got algorithms that are trying to do the job. It's clearly not fucking working. That's been a huge issue with YouTube for years now. You have to just make less profit, because you have to employ real people to do this job. You have to get this kind of shit under fucking control. Same with Steam. Like, Steam needs to employ some people to fucking have quality control. It seems huge. It's a huge task. It's very daunting, but it's absolute priority on all of these platforms. Facebook as well. Like, they're talking about tackling fake news, and Twitter's talking about tackling fake news. Like, it has to be priority one at this point. It's clearly becoming such a problem. It's clearly causing so much disruption between people in our society. There's so much anger going back and forth between people based on this kind of content, and it's only serving greed. Fake news is only serving greed, and this kind of content that's being put up on YouTube for children is only serving.
Oh yeah, that's pure evil. The shit on YouTube. My thoughts on fake news, especially in the case of, say, like The Onion.
That's parody. That's different.
Yes. So the line between parody and reality becomes a big thing. There's plenty of people out there without intentions of causing harm. That would like to disrupt narratives.
Yeah, okay.
To dismantle them. Some people are pretty sadistic, and they're just like, I want to confuse people to the point where, they fucking hurt themselves.
Yeah.
And fuck those guys. But disrupting narratives and producing information that is contrary to what you believe, it can further dialogue. So sometimes the only way to get a correct answer about something is to present the wrong answer and be corrected. That I see happen on the internet all the time. And that's what dialectic is in philosophy. It's someone thinking they know something, and then someone going, actually these things are wrong. And then the final result being the dialogue between those two people has created the true answer to that question, or to that problem. So there's plenty of like fake news. By fake news, it could just be someone who's actually wrong and didn't realize. There's sometimes not intent to lie deliberately.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think I feel like every day I grow more and more frustrated with Elon Musk. But what do you think of his journalism rating idea?
Okay. Was that the thing when people
or something?
Was that the thing when the users actually rate the
journalists?
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you've produced several articles that are clearly biased in a way that is either false or misleading, you can just give them a 1 star or something. I don't know what his actual process will be, but that's what he wants to do.
I get the idea, but it also just kind of sounds like how the free market's supposed to work. Like bad
self-regulation.
Bad quality content will get filtered out because people won't like it.
Just a sec, my man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This will be, what am I going to do? I need to do something to keep it entertaining. I'm going to play a little bit of keyboard.
I think it's the same flavor.
Good podcast. Very good podcast. Might even just... we'll cut
I
this.
should try it in glass. Yeah.
I'll cut this all out later. Yeah, that's what we'll do.
Thank you. No, don't cut that, man.
Okay.
It's good stuff.
Editing is for real shows.
There you go. You ready?
Yep. Hey, I get you.
That's what that was all for.
That was all worth it then. What are we talking about? Oh yeah, so I think that the only issue with that system is that does seem like it would be actually rife for
corruption.
Yeah. People who if you just got a loud enough community who are biased towards a particular viewpoint, then they could upvote something that doesn't deserve to be upvoted. So that could actually be really disruptive.
This person has written several articles about Trump not being a good president. He deserves to be silenced.
And also, wouldn't it as well just, not to think that people are stupid, but like a lot of people are going to upvote.
We know people are stupid.
I guess it's not actually even that healthy to assume that all humans are equally as intelligent and I don't know. That's a dark road to go down. But
what do you think about this? Everyone who rates journalists also gets rated. So like this person seems to be rating people well, and therefore their rating gets more of a say than other people's ratings.
This sounds like a review show now. It's like all the best music reviewers are the ones who review. So hang on, the best music is reviewed by the people who get the best reviews. If that makes sense. That has to.
Actually,
that's
oh my gosh, that's true.
That's a continuous tree. Like it continues down. It's like. You only get the quality, you only get the content that's reviewed by people who are well reviewed by other people who are also on Rotten Tomatoes probably, who are also then reviewed by their peers. Like that's a weird road to go down.
My friend, he knows all the best critics to read about music.
Well, okay, I know most of my music comes from Anthony Fantano, and I found Anthony Fantano because of you. You were like, hey, this guy's great. And I'm like, cool, he seems like a good reviewer. So you reviewed him highly, and he reviewed music highly, and that's how I get my music. That's a weird, but that's how, I guess that's just how, isn't that just how things work anyway? Isn't that just, like, it's like the same thing as your friend hands you a movie. They hand you it back in the day. They would hand you a DVD and said, hey, I like this movie. And if you like that friend, then you will have a higher chance of watching that movie.
And I think that's a good system. Because
isn't that a current system? Isn't that just how life works, though? Have things actually drastically changed, or are we just figuring out how to take things back the way they were, but we're using technology now?
We're just uploading what we already do to the internet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the same thing as... I mean, Facebook used to just be talking to people. Your wall used to just be your local cafe or your school group. Like, it's the same thing. It's just in a different format now. But actually, your political opinions would come from your friends, and that's how you would find them. And your movie recommendations, which I get off Facebook now, but I used to get it from just talking to people.
What seems to be really absurd to me is go back like 10, 15... I don't usually burp on the podcast, so there we go.
There's a first for everything.
Go back 10, 15 years. Just do it for me.
And here we are.
If you're not on TV, no one fucking knows you exist. Except for the immediate people in your community.
Yeah.
Like, there's no one you can call... Like, I'm going to call someone from America just to see if they know what I'm thinking. Or, like...
Yeah.
I'm going to tell someone in America that this movie was really shit. Like, you just wouldn't bother. There's no point to that. There's no point in sharing with the world.
That'd be so much fun, though, to do. to do like prank phone calls, but you actually just call people up and just give them movie reviews. Like you just give opinions out. That would be so much fun. Just work your way through a phone book.
Yeah, next time you have like a, I was gonna say like a Nigerian prince. Next time you have someone who's clearly trying to scam you for money, saying like, "I'm here on behalf of Microsoft, and your computer has a virus." Just say like, "You seen any good movies recently?"
Yeah.
Like,
see if they've got any good opinions.
Yeah. Sometimes I feel like doing that with the people who are they're like employed to collect money for charities.
Yeah. There's plenty.
I find it obnoxious to be questioned on the street by these people. But if
for sure.
I've had a conversation with a couple of them before where they were just saying, "Yeah, I'm over here visiting Australia and I'm just trying to sort of stay afloat."
Yeah.
And so I just told them like, "Oh, okay. Well, there's a bunch of things you can do around here since you're a tourist." And we had a conversation, and then she said to me afterwards like, "That this is sort of why I'm doing this. I get to actually just talk to people."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I should keep it quiet because we could do it as content, but fuck it, if anyone else wants to do it. If anyone wants to take the time out of their day to make a video of them getting opinions from telemarketers about a certain topic, that would be fucking amazing. That would be a great video.
And not in a condescending way either. Don't say to them like, "Are you happy with your job?"
Yeah,
like,
no. Like just random people call you up, try and sell your product, and get their opinion, and just while you're at it, get their opinion on the latest Marvel film and put it all together as a compilation.
Yeah. Did you see Infinity War?
Yeah.
Oh, fuck that movie, man.
Will you buy a vacuum cleaner if I tell you? Well, we're gonna have to find out. Depends on how good your review is.
There's some sort of good joke in there. Like, yeah, no, fuck. I'm gonna need 2 vacuum cleaners because that movie sucked.
Hey, okay, there we go.
But it doesn't even make real sense.
No.
So, oh well. Did it suck? Did it suck as much as your vacuum cleaners?
There you go. Something like, yeah.
If your vacuum cleaners sucked as much as Infinity War, maybe I'll buy it.
That's good. I like that.
I didn't see Infinity War, so I can't really be saying these things.
No, I haven't seen it either. I just couldn't give 2 flying fucks about a Marvel film anymore.
I know that vacuum cleaners suck though. That's a safe bet.
That's the one thing they're supposed to do. This has been Coprolalia.
Oh my gosh, we have a letter though.
Oh, cool. Yeah, no, that's actually perfect. Let's break it out. I feel this is a good time. A good long pause is always a good sign. Sweet.
Because I read the last couple.
Yeah, sweet.
This also means I have to send it to you. I mean, pass it to you across the table that we're both sitting at together.
This is a lot. Welcome to this is Coprolalia. Hey, here we go.
Welcome to Coprolalia. Can you play the letter theme?
Yeah, absolutely. You mean the thing that we've played every time whenever we open letters?
Yeah.
You mean that one? Yeah, cool.
The one that the fans are all waiting for.
Nice. Letter time. Time for letters. What?
I have not read this, so I'm excited.
It's opening now, as in I am opening it with my hands. Okay, this is a good bit. Yeah, hey there, Coprolalia. In the late why did my accent change? In the late 1960s and throughout the 1970s and 1980s, for that matter, Lou Scheimer, I don't know how to pronounce the last name, and his partner Norm Prescott crank out a ton of cartoons for Filmation productions during that time. There were some that were in fact downright awful, and some that are very successful indeed, like the animated version of Gene Roddenberry's Star Trek and the Archies, to name a few.
Huh.
I'm following, but the one that blew them out of the water and perhaps out of the better Saturday morning cut... What? Hang on. But the one that blew them out of the water, and perhaps one of the better Saturday morning cartoon shows that had a minority in the starring role, was that of Fat Albert. Okay, I read that sentence very strangely, but okay, it was also written weirdly. They made Fat Albert. Is that what you're saying? They made Fat Albert. There was some criticism during this show's run, but when it was on CBS, it garnered more awards and praises than any children's show ever produced. That was how you read a sentence. It was the show that broke the mold and the quintessential animated show of all time.
Quintessential, I imagine.
As a kid growing up, I couldn't wait for it to come on. Each show had the kids in usual predicaments, and after the band would sing a song regarding the lesson they had learned. However, me and my friend had a debate on who was singing those songs. We knew that Bill Cosby was the voice behind Fat Albert, but it was unknown. But it was a unknown singer that did the songs. From its premiere episode in September of 1972 to the final episode of the series, this is a fucking long letter, of the series in September of 1985, this was the show to watch. However, the years on CBS were from 1972 to 1979, and when the network cancelled Fat Albert, the series went into syndication from 1979-1985, oh my god, under the title The New Adventures of Fat Albert. Bill Cosby was not only the star of the show, but it served as an executive producer, executive in charge of production, and also as the educational consultant of the series. Repeats of the show ran every Saturday morning from 2 decades, 1970s and 1980s, and later on in syndication markets. It was a great show. We're on to the next paragraph. It was a great show. However, there were many specials produced that were good, including the riveting A Fat Albert Christmas and others. It's a crying shame that this series isn't on Cartoon Network or Fox Family Channel or the Odyssey Network, since the show had family values. It'd be nice if Bill Cosby would release these episodes on video cassette or DVD as a box set. They did with the animated version of Star Trek.
Can he do that from prison?
I don't believe so. He doesn't own any fucking rights anyway. It's owned by the network. Great show from the groovy 1970s. Best Saturday morning cartoon show of the 70s.
Fuck off.
Great. So thank you for making me plug Fat Albert, you fuck. I mean, it ties into our fucking discussion before and many episodes ago about the discussion of bad artists making good art. I
swear, I think a theme in most of the letters so far has been either Bill Cosby or racial slurs.
Yeah. It's trying to make sure that this show does not get any advertisers interested. So thank you for that.
Yeah,
thanks for making sure that we're never going to make any money.
Unless the Cosby Show wants to.
I'm not being sponsored by the goddamn Cosby Show. Fuck that shit. It's not in this in this time period. I would I would argue that the current state of kids TV, well, at least basically Adventure Time. I say Adventure Time is one of the best fucking kids shows ever been made, and it has taught some outstanding family values. Just good life lessons for children.
Yeah, like self values.
Yeah.
Like yep.
So I'm not too worried about the next wave of children. And
sounds like a tsunami.
Clearly, the Cosby generation and generations before that didn't do the best jobs, considering the state of things as they are now.
You aren't worried about the next tsunami of children hitting Australia?
Get those sandbags packed. Kids are coming. This is Coprolalia. This is a goddamn podcast, and I hope
we get to do a tsunami of kids for the thumbnail.
I hope. Oh yeah. I hope you listened. I hope you disagreed. Comment why you don't like this show below. I've been Rye, aka Wrath, and you've listened to a podcast.
I'm Giles, and I also listen to this podcast. That was a bit much. Okay, bye.